Why would just two dreams in the middle of the night terrify the most powerful pharaoh in Egypt, quietly bend his will on the throne, and open a new chapter of destiny for the whole land? Night falls over Egypt. Desert wind blows in, carrying hot sand and the damp smell of the Nile. Inside the palace, torches burn along stone walls, their flames dancing on carvings of gods and pharaoh's victories. Music and laughter fade, the royal bedroom door closes. Pharaoh lies on a gold-plated bed, head on soft linen, and drifts into sleep. At the same time, deep in the royal prison, darkness is thick and wet. Chains clink, prisoners cough and groan. Joseph, the young Hebrew who was once a slave and is now a prisoner, leans against a cold wall. 2 years have passed since he interpreted the dreams of the chief cupbearer and the chief baker. One was released and restored, the other was executed, just as Joseph said. The cupbearer had promised to speak of Joseph to the king, but life in the palace made him forget the young man in the dungeon. Joseph still works quietly, watching over prisoners, cleaning, and helping the warden. At night, when noise dies down, memories of Canaan, of his old father Jacob, of the dreams from long ago return. He wonders, the dreams God gave me, do they still mean anything? Yet in the cold, damp dark, Joseph keeps praying. In the lowest place of the prison, he clings to the belief that God is still at work, even when he cannot see it. That night in the palace, Pharaoh begins to dream. He stands on the bank of the Nile. Dawn is only a pale line in the sky. The water lies smooth and quiet, reflecting the first light. From the river, 7 fat, healthy cows rise onto the shore. They are strong and full, moving to a patch of fresh green grass to graze. It is a peaceful picture, like a promise of years of plenty. Then the water stirs again. Out of the muddy river come 7 more cows. Thin, starved, ribs showing, eyes sunken, skin burned by heat and hunger. They stumble forward, but their eyes are dark and fierce. Suddenly the 7 thin cows lunge and swallow the 7 fat cows. No trace of the healthy animals remains. Only the ugly, bony cows stand panting by the river. Pharaoh wakes with a start, heart pounding. He sits up in the dim room, lit only by a small oil lamp. Cold sweat runs down his back. He tells himself it was just a dream. But when he closes his eyes, the scene is still there. After a while, he dozes off again. This time he is in a field of grain. Wind moves through the stalks. 7 full, heavy heads of grain bend low, thick and rich. Then, from the dry, cracked ground, 7 other heads push up. Thin, scorched, twisted by the burning wind. They rise and swallow the 7 good heads until the field is left with nothing but shriveled grain. Pharaoh wakes again. Now he knows. These are not normal dreams. Something great is being announced. Something that could decide the fate of the kingdom. At dawn, the palace stirs. Pharaoh summons all the magicians, wise men, and dream interpreters of Egypt. In the great stone hall, he tells every detail of the dreams. They listen, unroll ancient scrolls, whisper to each other. But when Pharaoh asks, what do they mean? No one dares to answer with certainty. One says it is a sign of war. Another says the gods are angry. None of them gives an answer that calms the king. The more he listens, the more troubled Pharaoh becomes. It feels as if a storm is moving toward him, and he has no shelter for his people. At that moment, the chief cupbearer suddenly goes pale. Memories rush back. The prison, his own dream, the baker's dream, the young Hebrew who interpreted them exactly. He steps forward, bows low, and says, "Your Majesty, today I remember my offenses. Once when you were angry, you put the chief baker in prison. There was a young Hebrew there. One night we both had dreams. He listened and interpreted each one. And everything happened just as he said. I was restored to my position, and the other man was hanged. That man is still in the royal prison." The hall falls silent. Pharaoh looks hard at the cupbearer, testing his words. Then a spark of hope appears in the king's eyes. He commands, "Bring that man to me." In the dungeon, Joseph hears his name. Guards hurry him away to be washed and shaved, things a prisoner has not been allowed to do for years. They dress him in clean linen. Joseph walks out of the prison, squinting in the fierce Egyptian sun. The stone steps to the palace seem endless. With each step, he leaves behind the smell of mold and the groans of the cells, walking toward a place no one imagined for him. Joseph is led into the great hall. The air is cool, incense hangs slightly, golden statues stand all around. Pharaoh sits on his throne. Officials and magicians line both sides. Every eye is fixed on the prisoner from a slave people. Pharaoh speaks first. "I have heard about you. They say that when you hear a dream, you can interpret it. I have dreamed things that no one in this land can explain." Joseph bows his head, his voice calm and firm. "I cannot do it, Your Majesty, but God will give Pharaoh an answer of peace." The room seems to hold its breath. A prisoner dares to speak of the God of slaves before a king worshipped as a god. But something in Joseph's manner keeps Pharaoh from anger. He repeats both dreams, pouring out his fear with every detail. When he finishes, Joseph is quiet for a moment. Then he says, "Pharaoh's dreams are the same, though they came in two pictures. God is showing Your Majesty what he is about to do. The 7 fat cows and the 7 full heads of grain are 7 years of great abundance in Egypt. But the 7 thin cows and the 7 scorched heads of grain are 7 years that will follow, years of terrible famine. The famine will be so severe that people will forget the years of plenty." Murmurs of fear spread through the hall. Joseph continues, "The reason the dream came to Pharaoh twice is that the matter has been firmly decided by God, and he will soon bring it about. But Your Majesty can prepare, choose a wise and discerning man, and set him over the land of Egypt. During the 7 good years, let him take 1/5 of the harvest from all the land and store it in the cities. Keep the grain under Pharaoh's hand as a reserve for the 7 years of famine, so the people will not die." Pharaoh studies Joseph. The greatest wise men in Egypt have stood speechless, but this young prisoner not only explains the dreams, but he also offers a clear plan. The king turns to his officials. "Can we find anyone like this man, one in whom is the Spirit of God?" No one answers. In the silence, Pharaoh turns back to Joseph. His voice rings through the hall. "Since God has shown you all this, there is no one so wise and discerning as you. From now on, you will be over my house, and all my people will submit to your word. Only in the throne will I be greater than you." Before everyone, Pharaoh removes his signet ring and places it on Joseph's hand. He dresses Joseph in fine linen and hangs a gold chain around his neck. He has him ride in the 2nd chariot of the kingdom. Runners go before him shouting, "Bow down!" Everywhere the chariot passes, people kneel before Egypt's new governor, not knowing that only hours earlier he walked out of a cell. For the next 7 years, Egypt truly enters a golden age. The Nile rises in season. The soil is rich. Under Joseph's leadership, grain is gathered and stored in huge amounts in cities all over the land, so much that people stop counting. Then the 7 years of famine begin. Rain fails. The ground cracks, trees wither. But because of the grain stored beforehand, the people of Egypt have bread. From other lands, hungry caravans start moving toward Egypt in search of wheat, in search of hope. Joseph stands on the city wall, watching the long lines of travelers in the desert dust. He knows God's plan has not ended. The 7 lean years are not just for Egypt to see his hand. They are leading toward a meeting he has never dared to imagine. One day, among the crowds who come to buy grain, faces will appear that Joseph knows too well, the brothers who once sold him as a slave. When they bow before Egypt's governor without recognizing their own brother, the story will turn in a way no one expects. Do you want to see how Joseph will face the men who betrayed him, and how God will use that meeting to heal an entire family? Stay tuned, and don't forget to like and follow so you won't miss the next episode.